Hey, welcome into Boston has entered the chat. If you love this show, first of all, thank you very much. Secondly, check out Foxborough Rush, available on Nesson as well. George Balekji and I get you ready for the NFL Combine. Check us out. Foxborough Rush can be found on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and wherever else you get your podcast. All right, now, game time. What time is it? Game time. Boston has entered the chat. Travis Thomas here with George Balekji. How you doing, my friend?
I thought you were going to hit me with one more. What time is it?
Game time.
Doing good, my man. Doing good.
I thought about doing one more, but I didn't want to set an insane tone for the show. I
When's
just
the
wanted to
last
hype us
time-
up. I didn't want to be insane.
When's the last time you've entered the chat?
I love when you... It's such like a zen... Welcome to Boston has entered the
I'm
chat.
just happy to see you alive and well
Yeah.
after the Monster Red Bull experiment
Didn't
yesterday.
do anything to me.
Just saying.
Remember how you thought after the show like it would hit me?
Yeah,
It never did.
never did.
I think I'm immune to caffeine, which is kind of sad.
How about this? Maybe it sustained you.
Oh.
I have the days where I need 2 cups of coffee, and I like my coffee.
Yeah.
I ground it up myself. I buy the whole beans.
Yeah.
I do pour over, boil the water, take my time. I have my process.
Sure.
Sometimes I'm a 1.5 cup guy. Other days I'm a 2 cup guy.
So yesterday I was a 2-cup guy.
Yeah. Maybe you need it. Yeah, maybe you need more
Right?
than the intake, and it just sustained you, where
It
you
did.
never crashed.
Yeah, and I had a good show. It wasn't like I was over here snoozing off.
Someone watched the tape.
It was objective.
I'm joking.
That's objective.
Your bad day is someone's dream day.
Come
My
on.
man.
Come on. Little bromance here to start the program.
That's
but
what it
coming
always
up,
is.
how the East was won. We'll lay out how the Celtics look primed, at least, for a return visit back to the finals. Plus, the trade deadline is approaching fast for the Bruins. So we catch up with the Hockey Hub peeps. They'll break it down for us about what they think the Bruins should do. And can the Browns actually land a star quarterback? Now, before you laugh, because that's what I did as well, let George and I lay out how and who possibly. How's that for a tease?
I love that.
Remember, Boston has entered the chat, is interactive, so we need to hear from you. Email us at chat@nesson.com. You can also tweet at us using the hashtag NessonChat. But before we get to all that stuff, let's get into the Celtics here, because right now, George, technically they are behind the Cleveland Cavs for the first seed in the East. Mm-hmm. However, they are hotter than fish grease right now. Celtics have won 5 in a row. They're beating top teams. They're beating bad teams. They're beating all the teams. And they look great. They looked really hot before the All-Star break. Came out of the All-Star break. Boom. Still sizzling. So my question to you, I mean, do you, as you sort of look at how this season's playing out now, let's go confidence level. You and I do this a lot during football season where it's like, where's your confidence level 1 to 10? Yeah. Where's your confidence level for the champs to win the East again? Like, where are you at right now? Technically, as at the time of this podcast, there's 6 games behind the Cavaliers. So it's not impossible to catch them, but that's a tall order there. Not a ton of basketball left in this regular season.
Yeah.
So, you know, I guess for the sake of combo, we could say they'll be the 2 seed in the East. Does that really matter?
Yeah, we're
to
almost
you?
60 games into the season.
Where's your confidence level for them to win the East?
It's all-time high, but when I think win the East, I don't think of 1 seed. I think of winning the East.
Yeah.
And they're not dependent on a 1 seed at all. This is a team that you look at the way of what they get up 27 points on the Knicks on Sunday when they're matching up with them.
Yep.
And that is with Jalen Brunson, like box scores wise, looking good. The whole approach to the game kind of didn't make sense. Slow start. A team that's still just like the mission with Drew Holiday is get him to the postseason and let him turn on, where he still is an elite defender, the matchup with the Knicks. This is a team that understands what it takes to win the whole thing. They showed up for 82 games last season, and then they showed up for every single game in the postseason as well. And they understand how to show up in the regular season just enough, get into the post as a 2 seed, and yeah, they can overtake maybe the Cavs and get the 1. But they understand what it takes to win a series, and then a series after that, and then a series after that, and then win the finals. They understand how that goes. So that's why with all of this, it's winning the East has nothing to do with the standings. It's a construction of them. Mm-hmm. They're big, they're long, they're athletic. Jason Tatum continues to initiate the offense and pick up one of the hardest defensive assignments on the other end. Because that's what jumps out at me. Second time the Celtics play the Knicks. I'm watching it. The next day I go to you and Ante, who both host Hold My Banner. We catch all the Celtic stuff. And I looked you both in the eyes and go, hey, Brunson fan here, Knicks fan here. It will not go longer than 5. The Celtics will beat the Knicks in 5. And you both said, yep. Yeah. Because it just boils down to this. Think of a matchup with the New York Knicks team where their best player, and you could say pound for pound is the best player in the league, is Jalen Brunson. But he's all of 6 foot. And that's a guy that likes to get to the cup, likes to initiate a lot of contact, hits big-time shots. But when you have the length that the Celtics do, especially on the perimeter, and he doesn't have that raw athleticism to just do the get-by, they just render him almost irrelevant.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say that about Jalen Brunson because he can take over any series and take over any game. But it's a matchup with the Knicks where they're just going to hunt Karl Anthony Towns, who just like a Julius Randle was a wash defensively. Catch shooting, adds more gravity to the perimeter, opens up things for Brunson inside, except for a team like the Celtics, where it's Tatum one-on-one with Cat. Then it's Brown, Holiday, White, and Porzingis hunting in the middle around the rim. Then take that same thing to the Cavaliers. Got bigger and longer on the outside. DeAndre Hunter is having a great year shooting-wise. But your best player is Donovan Mitchell. Your second best scorer is Darius Garland. Darius Garland that has to be on the floor for key minutes. Those are the guys that they hunt. So
yeah,
my confidence with them winning the East will never waver. When you get to a matchup like an OKC, where they have a Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, another Jalen Williams.
SGA.
Exactly. A lot of size on the front court, too, with a Hartenstein and a Chet. That's the length, and that's what can create fits. It's just who in the East. It's 7 games. Who can match up with them and beat them in 7 games and keep up with their shooting? No one can.
Well, I guess you just blew by my next question to you, which was, who's the biggest threat in the East to the Celtics?
They have threats.
You're looking past the East, it sounds like. And you're feeling like, in the finals, this team could be pushed. I do think, listen, there are a handful of teams in the East who could present problems for the Celtics. Where I'm at with this is what makes the NBA so great. You play a best of 7, George. And so in a best of 7 series, you are not beating the Celtics team 4 times in a row. I actually am willing to bet that I don't think any team in the league can do it, but certainly in the East, now you're only talking about maybe one team that has a chance to do it. And I'm sure we're both going to talk about the same team. But as far as the Celtics go, I sold them short a bit on the intro. They've won 5 straight, but I just looked at this. They're 9-1 in their last 10 games. I mean, they are just dominating people. And so, obviously it's health. If you can go into the postseason healthy, you're in great shape if you're them. You don't want any banged up knees or ankles or backs from obviously the usual suspect of a Kristaps Porzingis. But also, you don't want that with Tatum and Brown, Derek White, and the others. So I think if they can get into this thing healthy, they're going to mow. Here's one thing I know we agree. They're going to mow through those first few rounds, no problem. I mean, if you're throwing right now, just for the sake of this conversation, at the time of this taping, George, the Celtics would play the Magic in the first round. And I'm a big Magic guy. I think they're a really good young team. The Celtics will destroy the Magic in 5 games.
Because they can match up with them defensively. They'll get into the rock fight.
That's right.
And then late in the game, they can hit shots. They can create them on their own.
I mean, but even the other possible teams,
it's
the
Heat,
Bucks. The Magic, the Pistons, these teams would get absolutely demolished by the Celtics.
It's the Cavaliers and the Bucks.
That's right. Well, for the threat, you're saying.
Yes. And that's where, I go through it, and I'm not worried in the East. But, hey, just like with any other team, it's what are the injuries? Where we've seen injuries keep Giannis out of the postseason back-to-back years.
Dame, too.
Can you look at me right now and say Kristaps Porzingis can make it through an entire postseason run healthy, doing what you demand of him both ends of the floor?
No.
Exactly.
No.
And that changes everything about this team. We saw it happen opening round, and then finally return for the finals and play one game 100%.
Yeah,
actually, like one quarter 100% in the finals.
He balled though.
He did, and he did just enough down the line. Yeah. But when it comes to a Bucks team, where Al Horford does match up well with Giannis because of his strength, because of his IQ, and how knowledgeable he is as a defender, and also what he does with his shot, where it can bring Giannis out of the paint. What's given the Celtics success with Giannis in the past rare time I'm going to say something positive about him, it was Al Horford and Grant Williams. You basically had two fire hydrants matching up with Giannis. And they can take him out of the game defensively, what they do, how they move, and just the brute strength of being able to handle him one-on-one. Handle, not stop, handle. It's Giannis. He's the third, fourth best player in the world. But they can do that with him. You have Al, old man Al. You have Porzingis, as good as he is. Unreliable, we can say in a way. And it's nothing him. It's always been his health. He's every inch of 7'3", and when you demand him to be a rim runner and a rim protector and a shooter, that's a lot on that body. You cannot tell me that the Bucks are not a threat because of what Dame possesses offensively,
right?
And Giannis being Giannis.
You got Kuzma,
and that's a team that's playing.
Size.
That's a team that can defend too. That's a team that has. It took a year to figure it out with Doc, and obviously Doc enters like not even midseason, like a quarter of the way into the season. And he didn't have his staff. Everything's sorted out. This is a different Bucks team.
They're more stable now.
Yes.
I thought adding Kuzma at the deadline, as you know, I've talked to you about this, was a really good move.
Yeah.
And then eventually
it raised the floor.
It did. And then eventually you get Portis back, who's another big body, to your point. I'll give you the Bucks as a threat. I'll give you the Cavaliers as the biggest threat. I mean, this is another team. You want to talk about size. Not only do the Cavs have size, but their bigs are all athletic as all get
Mobley,
out. I mean,
Allen.
they can run the floor. They can block shots. They are absolute savages. And if I'm not mistaken, the Cavs, obviously the biggest news was the Donovan Mitchell health status last season when the Celtics and Cavs played in the playoffs. But they also had some big men who were out. And so if that's another team, to your point, you know, every team wants to be healthy going into the postseason. We're not breaking news here. But if the Cavaliers can be healthy going into the postseason, they are a threat for the simple fact that they're almost Celtics light. I would say the Cavaliers are a poor man's Celtics because they are a deep team. Their bigs are athletic, like a Porzingis and an Al Horford. They do have stars. Now, Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, they're not in the same zip code as Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. There's no doubt. But you can't deny that they're stars. You can't deny these guys are all-star players capable of taking over games or series. In Garland and Mitchell, I'm talking about. So, and they're also well coached. I mean, we talk about Joe Mazzulla. Kenny Atkinson can coach for them as well. We do not have the Knicks on the real contender list here. We just have Bucks and Cavs, and we agree on that.
Yeah. Well,
I was looking at some numbers for the Knicks, George, not to cut you off.
No.
26-6 against teams below 500, which is really good. 11-14 against teams above 500, which I don't really give them a side eye for. They're just a few games under 500. Okay, you're hanging in there with good teams. Here's the glaring number, though. They're 0-7 against these combined teams, Celtics, Cavs, and Thunder, who we've all talked about in this conversation. We talked about you talked about the Thunder more than I did, but I could see the Thunder and the Celtics. I think most of us can in the finals. And then the Cavaliers, who we said are a real threat. So against Celtics, Cavs, and Thunder, the Knicks have not won. I think that says it all. And by the way, if I'm a Knicks fan today, I am disgusted not only with the fact that my team can't beat contenders, but more so, George, think of all the years and tears, blood, sweat, years, and tears it took for the Knicks to build a war chest of draft picks. They acquired all these draft picks over the years, rebuilding, blah, blah, blah. They finally hit the lottery with Brunson, and they get some guys in there, and they trade for Bridges, who is just not like
such
you
a
gave
disappointment.
Up. It took forever to get these draft assets. You give it away for this guy, and you think, all right, Brunson, Cat, Bridges, that's our big three. Wrong. Yeah. It's got to be devastating.
And it was the right move, though.
It was the right move. It was, wrong player, I guess.
No, but it's the right move because that's a guy you still saw that has been averaging 20 or more points per game pretty much the last 3 seasons before you acquire him. Was the only guy in Brooklyn. Was just always a casualty of teams rebuilding. Good player, but just not in the vision long term.
That's right.
Long guard, can shoot, can defend.
Defense.
Exactly.
Coachable, not a diva.
Can handle the ball.
Yeah.
So it was right to trade all those assets. It just boils down to that this team, you mentioned it, I'll just go with the 3 games they've matched up with the Celtics. The largest lead for the C's, 35 points in the first meeting, 35 points in the second meeting, 27 points in Sunday's meeting. God. In 3 full games, the Knicks have led the Celtics for 50 seconds total. In 3 full games.
That's awful.
And it is with Josh Hart, Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges being your 3 worst defenders against the Celtics team. Cat, you understand it and you live with that. But Bridges and Hart, no chance. OG's done his job.
Yes.
But that's a guy that plays one end of the court. And you're going to overpay for him because that's just what the market was. He was going to get paid elsewhere. Bridges has been the disappointment.
He has.
His net on Sunday was negative 44.
Yeah, you can't have
defensive,
that.
offensive rating per 100 possessions. Basically, do you add or subtract for your team? Bridges.
Yeah.
He's a guy that you have to bring him off the bench, but you also have to figure out the perfect 4 to put with him on the floor. And he just doesn't have it.
Yeah.
And that's with Tatum defending Cat, picking on him. And same thing on the other end, where Tatum hunting Karl Anthony Towns. He basically accounted for, with Cat as his primary defender, 33 points came from Tatum. Not just scoring, creating. That's how they match up with this Knicks team. This Knicks team is flawed against the top teams in the league. Brunson's their best player. Karl Anthony Towns is good on offense. And also, to say all of it too, this is on the coaching. Tom Thibodeau is one of the most brilliant basketball minds you'll meet in the entire sport, period. They came off of an overtime loss against the Cavaliers. Karl Anthony Towns aggravates his left knee late in the game, and he put him back in with 4 minutes remaining. He's aware. He understands regular season doesn't matter. How naive you have to be to put the second most important player to the success of this team on the floor to basically just go get picked on by Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That's the stuff you always joke about, and I always go, yes, you have to consider the liability that Tibbs is by putting the workload on these guys.
Yeah, they're never healthy by playoff time.
It's not just wearing down. Yeah. It's being careless like that. And that's what takes this Knicks team out of it. And that's why it's Celtics, Cavs, or Bucks.
Yeah.
This Knicks team should be so much better. Basketball is better when they are relevant. Jalen Brunson's a star you want in the Garden.
Yeah.
He embraces that. He makes big shots. He thrives in that environment. He's fantastic for the sport. Everything around him, a little different.
Okay, so we agree biggest threats in the East, Cavs and Bucks. It sounds like we agree biggest threat in the West, if they get there, is the Thunder. Not to say that they're going to be in the finals for sure, but outside of that, if it's the Nuggets, George, I'm just spitballing here. They don't play defense, so that's not going to work. The Lakers don't have a rim protector. I don't even think they get there, although the NBA would love Celtics-Lakers in the finals. I just don't see it. I think the Thunder are the only team that kind of checks every box except experience and pedigree, right? Championship pedigree. This is a very young Thunder team. They don't have that sort of battle-tested playoff years and knocking on the door and getting turned away like this Celtics team did before they became champions. So I would still give the Celtics the advantage there in the finals, as I'm sure you would. So it begs a question, is this team, this potential repeat team for the Celtics, better than last year's team? And I would argue, now we have to see how the playoffs play out because they smoked everyone in the playoffs last year. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. Stay with me here, George. I think in these playoffs, I think Cavs, Bucks, maybe in the finals, if it's the Thunder, they could be pushed. I could see some Celtics game 6, game 7s maybe. Who knows? But so on paper, I could see people thinking that the team that just won the championship last year was better. History may tell that because of how they annihilated teams. I would argue, I think what I'm watching right now is better than the championship team last year because of the ascension. Peyton Pritchard's ridiculous.
Yeah, read my mind.
Hauser's playing well. There's other guys now.
Luke Kornet defensively.
Yes.
And that's where if I bring up an Al Horford, I have to bring up a Kornet in a matchup with the Bucks.
That's right. I just think some of their role players this year are better than they were last year. Not that Pritchard and Hauser and these guys didn't ball last year, but they're on another, and it makes sense. They're another year in the system. They have the championship. The confidence is high. They should be better. That's player development.
Yeah.
But I think this team's better, George.
It's the main 9 guys.
Yeah.
And then in the playoffs, benches normally get tighter.
They do.
where it gets down to your best 5 or 6. With the Celtics, it's been your best 6 or 7. And so is it, okay, does Hauser take a back seat because Pritchard's been so good?
Good point.
Or do you keep it stretched out? Does Kornet take a back seat because Kata, because of matchups, is better as well?
Right.
And think about that wild card in all of this too, where you have Neemias Queta, who is like a Rob Williams light, doesn't get as injured, not as springy, not as athletic, but offensively as a rim runner, defensively as a guy that can guard on the perimeter, and also because of his athleticism and length, can still protect the rim, can do 2 things at once in a way, like a shot eraser.
Sure.
That Rob Williams can do all that, where it's certain games or certain matchups, that's what you possess.
Man.
And that's where we can see Akeda step up more against a Cavaliers team who shoots better. And then we can see even the same thing with matchup with the Knicks. But then a Kornet plays a bigger role against the Bucks, where you have to be more formidable in the middle of the floor and be privy of where Giannis is at all times and have bodies to throw at him.
Mm-hmm.
They just, like, I just talked about Luke Kornet, Neemias Queta, Peyton Pritchard, and Sam Hauser.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even mention the 5 best players.
That's right.
Really, the 3 best. Like,
Right.
And that's what you get with their 2 best players in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You know what you get from Drew Holiday when the postseason rolls around. You know what you get with Kristaps Porzingis when he's healthy. You know what you get with Derek White. Like, you know what you get from their 5 best.
It's an embarrassment of riches.
And then it's a 6th, 7th, 8th,
Sure.
9th wave coming at you. It's brutal. You are getting smothered. You are getting they drown you.
Yeah.
They drown you defensively.
Yeah, they do.
And just when you think,
And with threes.
yes, and just when you think you're done fighting the current and
Yeah.
you can make it to the shore, another wave pulls you out.
No, that's a great analogy. It's an embarrassment of riches for Joe Mazzulla, and I have to imagine coaches around the league just look and they're just like, how lucky is this flipping guy? Like, his bench is so
Pushed
deep.
every button right.
Yeah, you can play with the lineup. There's coaches, I mean, they are pulling teeth
Yeah.
to try and get talent.
Yeah.
And this guy is just like, he can run them out like hockey lines.
My favorite thing is my sister and a boyfriend, huge Knicks fans, who live in New York City, and every big Knicks game, I'll get a text from him, George, where you at? Come outside.
Yeah.
Right? Just messing
Right.
around. Little Brunson
Right.
gif. I texted both of them. I go, it's been warm for 3 days, 3 games. Y'all haven't come outside.
Haven't come
And I'm
outside.
sending them this list. But in the end, they just go, I don't get it. Like, why Drew Holiday? Why do the Bucks think that's a good idea? I go, the Bucks didn't think it's a good idea. The Blazers did it.
That's right.
It was the Bucks traded Drew to get Dame to Milwaukee. And then Brad Stevens took advantage of that.
Yep.
And it was the same thing with Porzingis, where Brad Stevens moved Marcus Smart to get a Kristaps Porzingis, and everyone's going, so Brogdon's a guy? And it was like, no, wait for the full thing to go through, because there's a medical red flag with Brogdon. The Grizzlies always wanted Marcus Smart, and Brad Stevens made it happen. And then he got Drew. It was, you press every button right, you pay the right guys, they extend Derek White, and they took advantage of other teams selling.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that happens, and that's general managing, where you think of the
Yep.
short term and you think of the long term.
Yeah.
And they played every card right.
I think you said that very professionally, which shows that you are GM George, which I call you all the time. I have a term for it. I like to call it fleecing.
Yes.
Fleecing other dumb teams. And the Celtics are smart. Brad Stevens we trust. So he fleeces dumb teams.
What
It's brilliant.
are you trading Drew Holiday for Rob Williams for? I love
So
Time
glad
Lord.
you did, though.
Time Lord was great, but he was just never healthy.
Yeah, facts.
He literally had degenerative issue in his knee.
Yep.
And the guy that leaps like him, it was never going to work.
Yep.
And that's where, like, I look from one side. I can't frustrate myself and waste my time
No, you're
figuring out
right.
the idiots out
Yeah.
there. But hey,
Yeah.
Boston's a benefit.
Facts.
Come outside.
Hey, in 6 minutes, I'll tell you who used to drop bombs for NBA news for work, but now he's working for charity. How about that? But first, if you want to hear more on the Celtics and everything going on around the NBA, be sure to check out Nesson's basketball podcast, Hold My Banner. Yep, yours truly's there, talking about the Celtics' domination of the East, Cooper Flag's meteoric rise in NBA draft talk. You can find it all on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else you get your podcast. All right, George, let's get the trending. 3 top topics in the world of sports, 3 minutes each. We'll start here. Shaq Thompson, man, I was kind of surprised by this a little bit, is being released by the Panthers after being there for 10 seasons. He is now free to go. He's a free agent. A little Shaq Thompson short-term Not a lot of money deal for the Patriots? No?
This would have to be the most minimum deal of minimum deals ever.
Well, he's coming off mad injuries, right?
Exactly.
So,
hey, this is the only guy that was remaining from the Panthers for the 2015 Super Bowl roster.
Oh, wow.
Think about it like that.
Damn.
He was also playing in the Super Bowl in 2015. He's only 30 years old.
Wow.
Yes.
That's all he knows is
A lot of good football, good Carolina, good linebacker, more of an off-ball linebacker. And I like it. Like, he would have been a good depth piece, but you only played 4 games this season because of a torn Achilles.
That's right.
And only played 2 games the season before because of a broken ankle.
Gosh.
And if you want to be an off-ball linebacker in today's NFL, you have to move sideline to sideline. You have to be athletic. Give them a look. A team out there should. But I think a Panthers team that's still rebuilding, if you let him go, that says to me, pick up the phone, do your due diligence, but that says to me what I need to know. Because the Panthers aren't there yet. They need a lot of help on defense, and that's a guy you want as you're rebuilding a defense.
Right, to kind of help the young guys along.
Yeah, maybe he retires.
No, he can't. He's not going to want to go out like this. I would think, and someone will give him a chance. I just don't want the Patriots to do it because you're right. I mean, Achilles and ankles, oh my God, back to back. You may never be the same, and you could retire. I would just think he will want to go out on his own terms, but I don't want that to be the Patriots, even if it's a minimal deal. I actually feel really bad for this kid, Shaq Thompson, because just hearing you talk about those injuries and the timeline of having them, George, it kind of harkens me back to the old school when linebackers would get hurt and couldn't run as effectively.
Yeah,
they would bulk up. It's your favorite stuff. They'd be in the weight room. They're on the creatine. They're putting on 10 pounds of muscle, and they come back that next training camp, and they ain't running nowhere. They are thumpers. Mm-hmm. They are there to knock your face off your face. And now, in this NFL, if you can't run, you're done. How's that sound? You can still bulk up. You can do all you want. But there's no market for anyone in this league. You just can't play in the league. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
You can't play in this league if you don't have speed. You can't go sideline to sideline. You can't cover guys. And unfortunately for Shaq Thompson, I don't know. I mean, you talked about 10 years ago he's in a Super Bowl. Hell, 20 years ago he'd still have a great career because he just put on weight and go hit people.
Yeah.
Now, man, I do think – I'll tell you what, George. I think he ends up somewhere. I think he's too good of a player and had too good of a career to not have a job. I just don't want the Patriots to take a flyer on him.
When he's 100%, he's getting you 100 tackles. He can get the job done. He can close out
100%.
and be a good run defender.
Can he ever be that again,
Broken
George?
ankle, you know how I feel about those injuries.
Brutal.
And then a torn Achilles. You won't see Shaq Thompson, like 80% Shaq Thompson possibly till next season, not this season. It's a torn Achilles.
Yeah, he ain't got time for all that.
Yeah.
All right, according to reports, the Browns would be interested in Matthew Stafford if he becomes available.
Nice.
How's no duh sound? So here it is, ESPN Cleveland. The Browns would pursue QB Matthew Stafford in a trade if he's made available, per Albert Breer. So in the Captain Obvious news of the day, of course you would. But if I'm Matt Stafford, I don't know. You and I had this discussion actually recently, and you kind of talked me into it. Mm-hmm. I guess when I just hear Browns, I'm out. And if I'm Matthew Stafford, who's been with the Lions and lost as long as he did, then he leaves, they get good. I'm sure he's like, what the heck? He goes to the Rams, wins a Super Bowl. The last place on earth I want to be is Cleveland with that organization. But you did make a point to me, and you're right. If you're just looking at the roster, that Browns team is loaded.
Yes.
Do you think there's any part of Matthew Stafford, if he becomes available, that would be open to the Cleveland experience?
No. It's the same of like...
Wait, you're the one that told me the roster's so good.
But if
he'd be a great fit.
But it's Matt Stafford. Like Matt Stafford with 2 years left in the league. You want to go to Cleveland?
Well, you were telling me how great the roster is.
Miles Garrett may not be there. The money has to work too, and he wants to get paid.
Yeah, the money ain't going to work.
And so you're going to go from the NFC West to the AFC North.
How can you make that money
harder
work?
Division? This is what I said it to you. I think what they do is he goes out, finds his price, comes back to the Rams. They go, fine. Yeah. This is what you're getting for AAV. Here's a signing bonus, guaranteed money up front. We've reduced your cap and we build around you.
Right.
For the Rams, it could make sense where if you flip Matt Stafford to the Browns, what would the Browns do at 2 possibly? A quarterback.
Yeah.
Here's a quarterback. Give us a number 2 overall pick. Give us the 2, the 3rd, and throw in another player. And then the Rams have the number 2 and 26 overall pick. And with that roster, they could trade back from 2 or draft a Shador/Cam Ward.
Ooh.
Right? That opens everything up for the Rams. The same way the Browns are interested in Matt Stafford. I always use it. I'm interested in Emily Ratajkowski. Awesome. Yeah. That's a one-way interest.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
So it's like, good for you, Cleveland. So are the 31, 30, 29, 28 other teams in the NFL.
You had to do the quick math. Because
I'm not going to say the Chiefs or the Bills or the Ravens or the Bengals are interested in them. But they could be.
I'm not going to lie, bro.
It's also, if you're Stafford and you even don't have a no-trade clause, you're not doing that to me. Sean McVay, like they're boys, you're not doing that to me.
Also, I know there's only 30 seconds left. And this is so off topic.
Do it.
But, like, I think that would be stupid to trade the number 2 pick for Stafford if you're Cleveland.
I like it.
Because, you're only going to get right? Is that growth? Is that not growth for me?
Yes.
Like, why would you do that?
I'm getting Matt
Stafford.
Yeah,
I know.
For 2 years and for $40 million a year against your cap.
And then he may suck.
You're dealing with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. Right. And by the way,
yes,
Cleveland, typical Cleveland, he would go there, Stafford I'm talking about, and stink. It'd be like, what is this guy? He didn't stink when the Lions stunk. How does he stink now? It would be like something magic. It would just be the jinxiest jinx of all time.
There was
because Browns. That's why.
There was like the report that the Rams want Matt Stafford's wife basically to like stop talking like public appearances about like team handlings. That'd be a good of like you could keep going and you could live in Cleveland.
Oh,
exactly. Yeah,
LA, I like Cleveland, by the way.
Manhattan Beach. Yeah,
I always defend Cleveland. I like
Cleveland.
their city, but
it's Cleveland.
It ain't LA.
It's Cleveland.
Facts.
Okay.
Facts.
It's Cleveland.
It's Cleveland. Adrian Wojnarowski selling off credentials and devices he used to break news when he was with the NBA to raise money. Here's a tweet right here. Woj bombs are history, but now you can be a part of them. On the iPhones I use to report the biggest stories in basketball. Use the link to bid on my original iPhones, NBA draft credentials, dinner with me, and more to help support. So I guess this is with St. Bonaventure, right, George?
Yeah,
which is where he's at now.
He's their GM,
their
so
NIL.
go to the NIL fund.
Yeah.
Dude, the offerings. So let me tell you this. You can bid on the iPhone used to break the Paul George Kawhi to Clippers news.
Wow.
iPhone used to break the NBA suspending the season due to COVID news. iPhone used for a farewell tweet about him in the final NBA draft. Or his draft credential for the Wemby draft, his final draft. This is like hilarious. We're like, you put it in a case and like put it in your man cave and go like, what's that iPhone for? It's like, that was Woj's.
Woj bomb.
That was Woj's.
You have to really be in the NBA. And I mean like.
What do you guess? What do you think the floor?
Rabbit hole NBA.
What do you think the highest bid is right now for, I'll go iPhone used to break NBA suspending the season for COVID.
Oh, he's going to get money.
Yeah, what do you think the highest bid is?
A G?
Close, less.
Yeah.
$750.
Yeah, it'll be a G.
$750.
He's going to get a G for that.
Here are the two that I like. Dinner with Woj or a video call with Woj. That dinner would be cool.
Dinner, because I want stories.
That's going to fetch you like $2K probably.
Yeah, I would want, because a video call, he'll give you some stories, but we all know, like, when you talk to someone or we try to do this show on Zoom or whatever, it's fine, but it ain't the same kind of sauce as when you're in the room with someone. So dinner with, I could care less about the iPhones and credentials. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're also in the industry, so maybe it's different. But dinner with Woj, I'd bid on that because I would just want to hear like stories from him. You know he's got great stories.
You know where my mind's going? I'm going to put together a pretty interesting parlay. If it hits, I'm going to put in the top bid. I'm going to get dinner with Woj, and I go, give me all your contacts. I want to be you. Boom. I'll break all the news. I'll hold my banner. Whenever you and Tay need me to hop on, I'll come on and do breaking news.
Can we just...
That's not the dumbest idea. It actually makes sense. I want dinner. Yes, I want dinner with him to pick his brain. I'm with you. Like, let me learn. But more important, like, hey, bud, I paid all this money. And then you get each iPhone. Yeah. You get the dinner and you get all 3 iPhones. And you go, I want you to load everything in there, the contacts. Is it wiped?
Can we just talk about the method in which George built this whole monologue?
Off a sick parlay.
Off of a parlay.
Look, man, I have a mortgage now.
That's where it started. Not working overtime, not saving.
I need it
not
now.
asking someone to borrow some money. No, I'm going to build a his quote, sick parlay, hit it, use the winnings to take over the Woj contact world.
I only got 7 days and 20 hours to bid. That's what he has left. Good for him. Creative way, bro.
Sick parlay. You had me at sick parlay. I ain't even gonna lie to you, bro.
But credit to him for being creative.
Yeah.
Serious.
Yeah.
Of St. Bonnie's small school in New York. Like,
I asked you about that. Where the heck is it?
It's like just north of Pennsylvania, the New York Pennsylvania line, basically, below one of the Great Lakes.
All right.
Yeah, but like, how do they find their funds? It's not Kentucky where they can just call up a booster. I bet you have other universities have creative ways to create NIL funds. For St. Bonaventures, literally, Woj is the biggest name on their campus.
Right? Yeah, facts. But they do make the tournament every now and again. I'll give them that. That's the only reason I even know who they are. But I didn't know. I know more today about the Bonnies than I ever have. And I'm good with this information. I don't need any more. Thank you, St. Bonaventure, for entering the chat.
Just think about, like, Tennessee has, it's called, like, Spire Sports Group, the University of Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And they just basically, like, find ways to generate around 20. Like, they have full-on firms, let's say, to generate $20 to $25 million in NIL. Yeah. Bonnie's got Woj, you know? We got Woj. What are you going to do?
I'm still stuck on sick parlay. Oh, look, gosh.
I got less than a week, and I got a mortgage. No overtime. That dinner's going to fetch something, man.
Sick parlay, bro. Hey, the NHL trade deadline is approaching quickly. A word was used by the Hockey Hub folks. We'll tell you that word in 30 seconds about how the Bruins should approach the deadline. But first, if you want to hear all about Boston sports, make sure you check us out. Nesson's daily sports podcast, Boston has entered the chat. You can hear the conversation. I keep telling you over and over again to get in here, tweet at us using the hashtag NessonChat. You can also email at us as well, the chat@nesson.com. Boston has entered the chat is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else podcasts are found. All right, George, trade deadline coming up for the Bees. We talked to our Hockey Hub peeps, and they used a word that stood out to me. It's the same way when Sweeney was talking the other day, and he said, well, we're going to take a more cautious approach. We played that soundbite. When we came out of the soundbite, you and I locked in on that word, cautious. What does he mean by that? You know, all this stuff you're just looking into so deep and cryptic. Like, what are you trying to tell me? So on Hockey Hub, conversation came around about the deadline, as many of them will, and Brick used a word that I thought was interesting as well. So let's hear it, and then on the other side, we'll break down what we think he means.
Well, that would only depend on at what cost. You know, what are you subtracting in order to add? And when I hear Don Sweeney use that word cautious, and it's relative to exactly what he said, how aggressive they've been in the past. Aggressive in the past because 60 games into the regular seasons, in past seasons, they knew what they had, and what they had was a team, and the numbers, you know, supported this belief was they had a chance to have a deep playoff run. In 60 games or close to it this year, we haven't seen that. We haven't. The eyeball test and all the numbers tell you, and it's hard to get behind this team and say, yeah, we believe, let's add to this team because they have a chance to do something in the postseason. The regular season hasn't told us that. That's not the message that we've received, not only as fans, but as people that cover the team and within the organization itself. So understand what cautious means in this situation. But the other side of that is, can we add to this team with our future in mind? You know, they have a number of pending UFAs. Are they in play? Veteran players that could help Stanley Cup elite teams or contending teams that are looking to add, that have cap space, that have draft capital that you might be interested, or a young player, maybe in the American League, that you earmarked as somebody that you can develop into a really good, bona fide NHL player that can help us win games in the future. All that stuff is on the table, but I don't expect a lot of fireworks from Boston. I don't expect them to go out with the attitude that we're going to add to the current group we have to complement what we have, because that is not the solution, and I think the regular season has told us that. I think the big question mark, and everybody agrees, is, what is Brad Marchand's future? Because he's a UFA. They've talked to him. They haven't gotten a deal done. What's his value to the organization? He's certainly earned the right to have what he has in terms of his no movement clauses, no trade clauses within his contract. But what is his future? What does he want it to be? Does he want to extend? Does he want to be with Boston? And then there's the other variable, which is which Bruins players have value to other teams. What are they willing to to put in a return. What are they willing to give the Bruins in return for the player that they covet, from the Boston Bruins, if the Bruins are going to be, active with significant players at the deadline. But based on the press conference and the tone and the tenor, it didn't seem like that's the direction Boston was going on. But it was also very clear that it appears they're not going to try to add because, you got your two top defensemen missing, and it's been that kind of a year where you're not convinced that this is a deep playoff run postseason team.
Okay, so now these are two words we have to play with. Obviously, Don Sweeney said cautious. We broke that down. Brick saying conservative. I mean, it all translates to me they're just not going to go add anyone. They are selling off pieces.
Yeah.
So they're sellers instead of buyers at the deadline. But I don't see either one of those as cautious or conservative. I just see it as, here's
Smart.
a word, realistic, right? Yeah, like, what else are you going to do? I mean, with each passing day, it feels like this team gets further and further away from a wild card position. You have injury issues.
No Lindholm. Who knows when McAvoy's back?
I mean, I don't know, George. I don't see cautious. I don't see conservative. I see
realistic.
I
think that's the best way to put it.
This is realistic.
It starts with like who the UFAs are going to be, as Brick mentions, Brad Marchand. You're not going to trade your captain. It's either he finishes season here, or finishes his career here, or you let him go pick his spot. And I think as an aging winger, it's fine. Like the return won't be insane. You do right by Brad Marchand. He's done everything right by Boston and the Bruins. But what do you do with Trent Frederick or Justin Brazeau? Or the RFAs even, the guys that, if they do sign elsewhere, you at least get some compensation back because they're a restricted free agent if you don't match the contract. What do you do with the Morgan Geekie? What do you do with the Beecher? And that's what you have to ask. Like, Frederick is having a bad season, 40 points last year. Who knows if he even gets to 30 this year. Justin Brazeau, top scorer on the third line, could be a good depth piece for teams, and that's a guy that's slotting in on the right wing next to Patra and Frederick to the left of him. It's what are the returns going to be? Also, I think it's that this is a hockey team that could set themselves up when a new CBA comes through and a new TV deal comes through. It's why we've seen a lot of guys take one-year deals out there, is that the cap will increase.
Sure.
And so they're supposed to have $22 million in cap space the upcoming offseason, I believe. It could be looking at who are the pending free agents. Do you go out and sign a Sam Bennett? Or do you go out and at the same breath you signed a Nikolai Ehlers, right?
Sure.
Bennett, if you bring him in, is he playing with Brad Marchand? They play together for Canada, but that's a depth center. Ehlers is a good scorer on the left side. Or do you gain assets, and then with increased cap space, do you flip it? For a guy that'll be not a free agent this summer, but next, Jack Eichel. Kaprizov with the Wild. That's a really good center, a really good wing. You put Kaprizov next to Elias Lindholm and David Pastrnak. That opens up things for Lindholm.
I like Eichel,
or Jack
too.
Eichel is your first line center.
Yeah.
And then it goes Eichel, Lindholm, Zacha. That's a lot of money next to Pasta, too.
It is.
See, that's realistic and smart is figuring out the near and the long term.
Right.
And situating yourself where you can do signings or trades and signings.
Sure.
Right? I just kind of laid out a very simple blueprint for the upcoming offseason and next offseason.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, George, I'm going to tell you how bad my luck is. The guy I want the Patriots to draft isn't even playing, practicing, showing his skills at this week's NFL Combine. I'll tell you about that in 30 seconds. If you want to hear more about the Bruins, though, as we approach the NHL trade deadline, be sure to check out Nesson's Hockey Podcast, The Hockey Hub. Hey, how about this? Eddie Olczyk joined the show and talked about what the Bruins could do at the trade deadline, as well as the success of Four Nations and much more. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else podcasts are found. Okay, so George, you know we do Foxborough Rush, which you can catch here on Nesson as well and wherever you get your podcasts. And we've been talking NFL Combine a lot. And so it starts this week. And I see the two stories today, and I just shook my head to both of them. Ashton Genty, who I want the Patriots to draft, is skipping out. He's just like, listen.
Brilliant.
I mean, check the tape, son.
Brilliant.
I ain't doing nothing. This according to Tom Pelissaro, saying he'll participate for his pro day, but he ain't doing anything for the Combine. So there's that. And then Shedeur Sanders also What?
This
According
one-
to Ann Rappaport, not participating in the combine as well. Same with him. He'll do his pro day, of course. And generally speaking, let's start with him, George.
Shedeur will do the interviews. He just won't be working out.
Right. Let's start here with this, because generally speaking with quarterbacks, this is normal when you're the top guy.
Yeah.
I mean, last I checked,
It's
every
Cam.
mock draft I see on earth now has Cam Ward as the top guy.
Yeah.
And Shadeur's stock is falling.
Yeah.
So I'm like, shouldn't you work out at the combine and your pro day? How do you feel about this? I think he should.
I think he's doing the smart move.
Really?
He's only going to concentrate on the interviews. Where the whole NFL combine as a whole, like they want to
Measure prog.
They want to put these guys in a high stress. No, they want to put them in a high stress situation.
Yeah.
Lack of sleep, lack of everything. Thrown into the fire here, the interviews. Thrown into the fire here, the drills. He has 4 years as a starter in college football. Yes, 2 are with Jackson State, but I got 4 years of tape. 2 years of that playing with Colorado in the Big 12. You got all the tape. I'm going to throw out my pro day. Let's sit down and talk. I'm going to be well rested. I'm going to be at my maximum.
At my best.
Exactly. Mental performance state where I'm not going to be tired from you guys having me wake up and weigh in and get measured at 6 a.m. and then I got to do an interview at 5 p.m. after doing drills all day. I think it's brilliant on Shedeur Sanders. And also, same thing with Ashton Ginty. Brilliant. You have your pro days. You don't need to work out. Ginty's RB1. He knows he's going to be a top 15 pick.
Okay. Two separate things there. Genty, although selfishly I wanted to see him because that's who I want the Patriots
Watch
to
a pro
take.
day. That'll have cameras
his
on
pro
it.
day would be great.
That'll have cameras.
Put the tape on. Like I at least get it with Genty. And by the way, the biggest thing, the elephant in the room, he's a damn running back. If I am a quarterback whose draft stock, remember the debate from the second college football season was over, Cam Ward or Sanders, which one? That debate doesn't exist anymore. Everyone's saying, no, Cam's going to be the guy. Are you kidding? I would do anything. I don't give a damn about, I don't have sleep, I'm hungry, whatever. I want you to see me that way. I want you to know I'm out here with a 7th round projection from Roast Beef Tech at quarterback. I'm out here throwing with him, working out with him.
I think they have good dining halls there.
Because I'm at Roast Beef Tech.
Yeah, really good. North Shore University.
I see what you did there. I'm sending the message to you. I'm a dog about this, and I need to be number one, not Cam Ward. I think this sends the wrong message. I hear you, and I think everything you said is why he's not doing it. So I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not suggesting that. I just think if I was in his camp or his dad or a friend, I'd be like, bro, you should go out there and show them. You need to kind of get ticked off and go out there and show them, no, I'm the guy. I'm the one. Go out there and prove it, and then do it again at your pro day, and then what can they say? With his stock falling, they're picking every little nitpicky thing to rip apart this kid.
Yeah.
This is going to be another one. I guarantee it. Like, oh, he wouldn't even throw at the combine. No, I would go out there and do everything possible to stop my stock from falling and to make me hot, bubbling, make my name bubbling so I go number one, or at least it's a debate again.
What I would at least do is the only time I'm throwing is to Travis Hunter. I'm looking at up at all the suites and I go, you draft me, you're going to get him in 4 years, or the vice versa. But with all that you lay out, I get it.
Yeah.
But Shedeur Sanders is not like the normal QB2 vying for the QB1 on a draft board. He's Deion's son.
Right.
These teams have a different type of line to contact him, to talk to him, to communicate with him. He'll do these interviews. And also, if I'm Shedeur and I go later and I end up with the team that's
better situation.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
like
but I don't want that.
I don't. The obsession of being number one, and I get it.
Yeah, that's true.
But what if I go later?
Right.
And end up with the Colts, who have 3 good wide receivers.
Oh, my God.
Right? Or the Cardinals. Or the Seahawks have a really good defense.
He could start now in Seattle.
Dallas. Hey, what if I end up at 11 to San Fran?
Right.
That's it. So,
I guess.
2 sides.
Do you think there's any knock because Prime is his dad in the NFL? Like, is that something teams say, I don't want to deal with this?
No, because, again, they're able to gather that information because if you're an NFL team, you have a contact with Deion Sanders. because it's Dion, it's prime.
Right.
And it is. Am I getting you or am I getting your dad? So there is that concern. Definitely, that's a question they ask.
Right.
And through the interview process, they'll find out, who am I getting?
He's being asked that straight up.
Yes.
At the interviews.
1,000%.
Are we getting you or you and your dad?
1,000%. Hey, two guys I want to point out to you. I'm looking forward to working out.
Yep.
Punters and kickers start on the 26th.
God.
Ryan Fitzgerald, the kicker from Florida State. He hit 8 50-plus yard field goals when he was in high school. He's third all time at Florida State. 6 50-yard field goals, 178 made PATs. He was 5 for 5 from 50-plus this past season with that awful Florida State offense and situation. Perfect on extra point attempts. And the last 2 years combined, Trav, because this is NFL type where you have to be nails, 11 for 11 from 30 to 39 yards out. Physically, mentally, he hasn't figured it out. That's what we want with the kicker. And then James Burnett, the punter from Alabama, he's Australian. No. So he can traditionally punt or he can do the rollout like you get in rugby. He has good hang time, and he's smart with pinning returners to the sideline. Can't wait to watch those guys work out.
Cool story, mate.
I had to do it to you.
You're a kicker and a punter.
I think we have 3 Australia references in the last 2 weeks on chat. All-time high. You know I had to do it to you, T. I had to do it to you.
He's George Balekji.
That's me
I'm
getting you
Travis
back from all the
Thomas.
Ginty talk.
We're real athletes, not kickers and punters.
Hey.
Thanks for rolling with us here on Boston Has Entered the Chat. Bye-bye.
Let's get you punting. See how hard that is.